Most folks think woodworking starts with a plan. You get out your pencil, your ruler, and a clean sheet of paper. You draw up a design with perfect angles and precise measurements. Then you go to the wood and tell it what it's going to be. But I've found a different path, a quieter one. It's a way of building where you don't start with a drawing. You start with the wood itself. You pick up a board and you listen. This way of working asks for patience. It asks you to set aside your own grand ideas and let the material have a say in its own future. It's less about being a commander and more about being a partner. This approach is what I call letting the wood lead. It's a kind of dance. You don't force the steps. You respond to your partner's movements. When I begin a project like this, my shop is quiet. There are no blueprints tacked to the wall. There are no numbers scrawled on a notepad. Instead, there are stacks of wood. I spend a long time just looking. I'll run my hands over the surface of a plank of walnut or cherry. I'm not just feeling for smoothness. I'm feeling for the story that the tree has to tell. Each board is a chapter, full of knots, swirls, and lines that record years of wind, sun, and rain. The first step is simply to choose the wood that speaks the loudest. Maybe it's a piece of ash with a long flowing grain that looks like a river. Or perhaps it's a slab of oak with a cluster of knots that reminds you of a constellation in the night sky. The wood you choose is not just a raw material. It is the very soul of the piece you are about to create. You don't pick it because it fits a certain dimension. You pick it because it has character. You pick it because it feels like it wants to become something beautiful, and it has invited you to help it along on its journey. Once the wood is chosen, the real work begins. But it's not the work of saws and chisels just yet. It's the work of observation. I'll prop a board up against a wall and just look at it for days. I'll see how the light hits it in the morning versus the afternoon. I'll notice how a dark streak runs from one end to the other, or how the grain suddenly changes direction. This is where the design starts to form. It's not in my head. It's right there in the wood. The plank itself is the blueprint, written in a language of fiber and time. My job is simply to learn how to read it. When you are ready to make the first cut, it feels monumental. You are not just cutting a piece of wood, you are making the first decision in a long conversation. For a tabletop, I will look for a board with a strong, captivating pattern. This will be the main feature, the face of the furniture. I want the grain to flow across the surface in a way that draws the eye. Maybe the grain widens at one end and narrows at the other. If so, that might suggest a tapered shape for the top. I will not fight this. I will follow it. The saw cut I make will honor that natural line, not ignore it for a perfect rectangle. My tools become instruments for revealing what is already there. A hand plane, for example, does more than just flatten the wood. With each pass, it shaves off a paper-thin layer, and the grain below comes to life. It's like turning the pages of a book. Suddenly, a subtle shimmer, known as figure, might appear. This is where the wood fibers have grown in a wavy or interlocking pattern. You can't see it on a rough board. You can only find it by carefully working the surface. When you find figure, you have to stop and think. This beautiful detail needs to be celebrated, not cut away or hidden under a leg. The process is slow and deliberate. Every single part of the piece is chosen this way. I'll look for a board for the legs. I'm not just looking for a thick piece of wood. I am looking for a board where the grain runs straight and true from top to bottom. This isn't just for looks. Straight grain means strength. A leg with grain that runs diagonally across it is weak. It could snap under pressure. By following the grain, you are not only making something beautiful, you are making something that will last. The wood is telling you how to make it strong. This method forces you to be resourceful. You can't just go to the lumber rack and grab a piece that fits your pre-planned dimensions. You have to use what the wood gives you. Sometimes the most interesting parts of a board are near the edges, where the sapwood meets the heartwood, creating a beautiful color contrast. A traditional designer might cut that part off to get a uniform color. But I see it as a gift. I'll try to make that line a key feature of the design, maybe running it right down the center of an apron or along the edge of a shelf. It's a signature from the tree itself. Of course, this way of working is not without its challenges. The wood is not always agreeable. Sometimes it says no. I might have an idea for a certain style of leg, maybe something delicate and tapered. I'll pick up a board that I think is perfect. But as I start to shape it, I might discover a hidden knot right where the leg needs to be the strongest. Or the grain might suddenly twist in a way that would make the leg unstable. At that moment, I have a choice. I can either force my idea onto the wood and create a weak piece, or I can listen to what the wood is telling me. I always choose to listen. This means my original idea for the legs has to be thrown out. I have to put the tool down and go back to just looking. I'll study the board with the difficult grain. What does it want to be instead? Maybe it can't be a slender, tapered leg, but perhaps its twisted grain would make it a perfect candidate for a shorter, more robust leg with a gentle curve. The design has to adapt. It's humbling. The wood is in charge, not me. This is where you learn flexibility and solve problems with your eyes and your hands, not with a calculator. Joints are another area where the wood gets a vote. I might plan to use a classic mortise and tenon joint. It's strong and timeless. But as I examine the two pieces of wood I want to join, I might see that the grain on one piece runs at a strange angle. Cutting a traditional mortise might weaken it. The wood is telling me that my chosen joint is the wrong one. So, I have to change my plan. Perhaps a different joint, like a half lap or even a well-placed dowel, would work better with the grain direction and keep the wood strong. These unexpected changes are not failures. They are the most exciting part of the process. They are the moments when the piece of furniture truly becomes a one-of-a-kind creation. It's a collaboration. A chair built this way won't look like any other chair in the world, because it was born from a specific conversation with a specific set of boards. The challenges and adaptations are what give the final piece its unique character. It has a story of compromise and discovery built right into its very bones. The final shape is a result of this back-and-forth dialogue. When the last joint is cut and the final sanding is done, you have a piece of furniture that feels alive. The curves and lines are not perfectly symmetrical like a factory-made object. They are organic. They have the gentle, imperfect flow of nature. A leg might have a slightly different curve than its brother across the way, because the grain in that piece of wood asked for it. The tabletop might not be a perfect rectangle, but its shape follows the life of the tree it came from. The result is a piece that is not only visually interesting, but also structurally sound, because every part is aligned with the natural strength of the wood fibers. The final step is the finish. After all this work listening to the wood, the last thing I want to do is cover up its voice with a dark stain or a thick, plastic-like varnish. A stain is designed to hide the wood's natural color and impose a new, artificial one. It would be like telling a good storyteller to be quiet. My goal is to protect the wood while letting its true character shine through. So I avoid stains. I want to see the pale cream of the sapwood next to the rich brown of the heartwood. I want to see the shimmer of the figure and the dark circle of a knot. My finish of choice is usually a simple oil and wax blend. The oil soaks deep into the wood fibers, which makes the grain and figure pop. It gives the wood a warm, rich glow from within, like it's lit by a candle. The oil doesn't form a film on the surface. It becomes part of the wood itself. You can still feel the texture of the grain under your fingertips. After the oil has cured, a coat of paste wax provides a layer of protection and a soft, gentle sheen. It's a finish that is meant to be touched. It invites you to feel the story of the wood. In the end, letting the wood lead teaches you a valuable lesson that goes beyond the workshop. It teaches you to give up a little bit of control. It teaches you to pay attention to the nature of things, whether it's a piece of timber or a problem in your life. Instead of trying to force a solution, you learn to listen, observe, and work with the reality of the situation. The finished piece of furniture is not just a table or a chair. It is a testament to the beauty of collaboration, and a quiet reminder that sometimes the best plan is to have no plan at all.